A question. How does a hacker who tries to save the privacy of his fellow American citizens?
I'm no different from anybody else. I don't have special skills. I'm just another guy who sits there day to day in the office, watches what happens.
Ended up becoming the most wanted man in America.
The US government has filed criminal charges against Edward Snowden. Washington now wants help from Hong Kong officials because Snowden's been hiding in the Chinese territory since unleashing the revelations about the National Security Agency.
Where in the world is Edward Snowden?
This is the fascinating tragic story of Edward Snowden. And it all started with the CIA. Growing up, Edward Snowden was a very smart kid. He passed language classes in Mandarin and Japanese easily. Even mathematics wasn't even a problem for the young lad. But guess what? He never had a college diploma or even a high school diploma. No real school certificate to boast about. But there is a solid reason for that. His parents were having a very rough time and they were on the verge of getting a divorce. So nobody really had time for Snowden, who was the only son. So he had to drop out from high school just to make money for himself. Snowden had always been a patriotic citizen of the United States. He loves his country so much, like his life depends on it. And this is all because of the way he was raised. I mean, he comes from a family who have worked for the United States government for almost their entire life.
I grew up in a federal family. My mother worked for the district courts, or rather the federal courts, and it's kind of funny because she still works there, and those are the courts that are trying to throw me in jail for the rest of my life now. My father worked for the Coast Guard, retired after 30 years. My grandfather was an admiral, and then he worked for the FBI. As far back as it goes, my family, my whole line of family, even generations back, was working for the government. So it was pretty ordinary, pretty expected for me to go into the same kind of work. Now,
in 2004, Snowden felt like he had a duty to help his country fight in the Iraq War to help free oppressed people. And that was how he enlisted in the United States Army and became a special force candidate. The physical and mental training was extreme and strenuous for him, but he wasn't gonna give up that easily. Serving his country was like a dream and he felt like he was built for it. But his dream suddenly felt like it was coming to an end. Just after 4 weeks of training, after he broke his leg. The leg was injured so bad that if he ever gets an injury on that same leg again, then he can kiss his leg goodbye. After listening to what the doctor had to say, he was very scared and decided to leave the army. But deep down, he still wanted to serve his country, so he thought, since I can't use my legs, then why don't I use my genius mind, my love for computers and my hacking skills to help the nation? And that was how he summoned courage to join the CIA. Snowden had never had any problem getting work at any firm because he was a computer wizard and got offered a job at the CIA, which he accepted, and was sent to the CIA Secret School for Technology Specialists, where he spent 6 months studying and training full-time. At his training, he was stationed to Geneva, Switzerland, where he was responsible for maintaining computer network security, representing the United States interest before the United Nations and other international organizations. He was considered as the top technical and cybersecurity expert in that country and was handpicked by the CIA to support the president at the 2008 NATO summit in Romania. After having a good ride with the CIA, he decided to resign after he witnessed a CIA agent who got a banker drunk at the bar, encouraged him to drive home, and still got him arrested for drunk driving. I mean, that's insane. That was how he left the CIA to join the NSA, and this was where the beginning of the end really started. He met an agent who gave him his login credentials to the NSA programs and showed him what he could do with the NSA program. With this NSA program, you could see the full list of every threat made about the US president, from every social media account, every text messages or comments, and from any time frame. The NSA program is like Google search, where you can search for keywords of anything, but unlike Google search, you would get results that's not just public but also private, meaning you could see people's private emails, text messages, chats, and you could even see through the webcams of people's computer and know exactly what they're doing in real time. Sounds scary, right? After seeing this stunning revelation, he joined the NSA to understand much better about the agency. During his time in the NSA, they tapped the computer system of nearly all countries just to own the communication system. They planted malware in different countries like China and Russia to keep track of their every move, from sex scandals to their trade deals, just so the US government would have an advantage during negotiations. The NSA kept tracking the cell phones and profiles of everyone in every country, including the good guys and the bad guys.
As I moved higher and higher in the organization, as I moved from CIA to NSA, As I moved from office to office, my straw that I'm looking through gets wider and wider and wider. And I saw everything.
Any analyst at any time can target anyone, any selector anywhere. But I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone, from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
And the public, who never even knew this stuff existed, it felt to me that we needed to know. We needed to actually decide, is this what we want to happen or not?
Because even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. And the storage capability of these systems increases every year consistently by orders of magnitude, to where it's getting to the point you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call. And then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made and attack you on that basis.
He didn't like what the National Security Agency, the NSA, was using all the information they gathered to do. Saying the killings and bomb explosions of innocent people from different countries was too much for Snowden to handle on a daily basis. But the turning point that made Snowden turn his back against the NSA was when the National Intelligence Director lied under oath of Congress, saying the NSA doesn't collect any data from millions of Americans.
So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
Does the NSA routinely intercept American citizens' emails?
No.
Does the NSA intercept Americans' cell phone conversations?
No.
Google searches?
No.
Text messages?
No.
Amazon.com orders?
No.
Bank records?
No. We're not authorized to do it, nor do we do it.
And I tell this to the guy sitting to my right, a good friend of mine. Tell this to the guy sitting to my left, a good friend of mine, to my office manager, right? And all of them actually in private, right? When you're not in email, when they're just speaking heart to heart about this, they go, no, this is crazy. I'm not sure why we're doing this. I'm not sure how we're doing this. I'm not sure this is legal. But you know what happens to people who talk about this, right?
You can't come forward against the world's most powerful intelligence agencies and be completely free from risk, because they're such powerful adversaries that no one can meaningfully oppose them. If they want to get you, they'll get you in time. But
what happens to us as a society if everybody sees something wrong and goes, well, if I say something about it, I'm going to get into trouble? That's how things go wrong.
First thing he did was to transfer security files from the NSA computers into an external memory so he could have evidence to show the people of the United States.
Now, I gathered a lot of information about what I believed was evidence of criminal activity on the part of the United States government, unconstitutional programs, and simply things that were problematic, that were ethically questionable.
And just like that, he left the NSA and Hawaii to Hong Kong to get prepared for the massive review. He contacted Glenn Greenwald, a journalist working at The Guardian, and documentary filmmaker Laura Poitras in January 2013 so they could help him expose the dirty little secrets of the NSA. After 5 months, on the 5th of June 2013, they contacted Guardian, and The Guardian published the first article, and it immediately sparked a lot of interest from people all around the world, and suddenly it was on mainstream media worldwide.
Snowden disclosed government programs that collected Americans' emails, phone calls, and internet activity, all in the name of national security.
Revealed massive NSA surveillance programs that collect phone records and internet data on a scale that many people never imagined.
This is the most serious hemorrhaging of legitimate American secrets in the history of my country. We've never seen anything like this before.
For us in Hong Kong, it was about 3 or 4 in the morning. So we had a couple hours sleep, and then we woke up and there was pandemonium.
Breaking news this evening is the identity of the man who sent the Obama administration into defend and explain mode this week.
But the person responsible for one of the greatest national security leaks in recent American history apparently insisted that his identity be made public after he fled the country for Hong Kong.
My name's Ed Snowden. I'm 29 years old. I work for Booz Allen Hamilton as an infrastructure analyst for NSA in Hawaii. I think that the public is owed an explanation of the motivations behind the people who make these disclosures that are outside of the democratic model.
After his interview, the United States government were literally after him and was now a wanted man in the eyes of the government.
I don't welcome leaks.
Edward Snowden is a wanted man. He's already leaked information about the government tracking America's phone records.
I think it was probably on my birthday when the present I got from the government was that they unsealed an indictment against me.
Edward Snowden has been charged with espionage, theft, and conversion of government property.
The charge of espionage increased the pressure on the Hong Kong authorities to act and made Snowden's position even more dangerous. It meant that if Snowden was caught, he could face the death penalty back home in the U.S.
I very much was a person, the most powerful government in the world, wanted to go away. They didn't care whether I went away to prison, they didn't care about whether I went away into the ground, they just want to be gone. And that's a fear I'll live under for the rest of my life, however long that happens to be.
We're advising these governments that Mr. Snowden is wanted on serious felony charges, and as such, he should not be allowed to proceed in any further international travel.
He knows he's a hunted man right now. He's trying to find a country that will give him asylum from prosecution.
So how will intelligence officials track him down and get him?
We know that somewhere out there, Edward Snowden is on the move, or at least has been on the move. Over the weekend, he was definitely in Hong Kong, and he definitely left Hong Kong to go to Moscow over here.
After they granted him visa to stay in the country and gave him political asylum, the protection granted by a nation to someone who has left their native country as a political refugee. The US government was so pissed that the Russians who helped them arrest Snowden in Moscow. The Russians supported him. The US citizens were also in support of Snowden.
Snowden blew the whistle on American efforts to spy on innocent citizens. Today, we all blow the whistle.
Protect Snowden! Protect Snowden!
Except the US government, who were ready to arrest Snowden without giving him a fair trial if he ever returns back to the United States.
We've asked the government again and again to provide for a fair trial, and they've declined.
But at the end of everything, the House voted to stop the NSA from the collection of bulk data, and the president at the time, Barack Obama, also signed the USA Freedom Act, moving the storage of bulk telephone metadata used by the National Security Agency to telecom companies rather than the government. While the NSA stopped the collection of bulk telephone data, till this very day, Edward Snowden still resides in Russia, and it seems like he may never return back to the United States of America.
You're living in Russia and have for some time now. As you pointed out, it's not where you want to be, it's where you were forced to be.
But I'm not going to let any kind of concern for what makes my life easier, for what makes my life safer, allow me to be less free.
Are you happy in Russia, or would you much rather be in Western Europe or back in the States?
You know, I'm much happier here in Russia than I would be facing an unfair trial in which I can't even present a public interest defense to a jury of my peers.
He's going to die in Moscow. He's not coming home.
But now the real question.
You've been called a whistleblower, a traitor.
He's a bad guy. I have no doubt that he's a bad guy.
This has done unnecessary damage to U.S. intelligence capabilities and U.S. diplomacy.
If I had just wanted to harm the U.S., you know, that you could shut down the surveillance system in an afternoon, but that's not my intention.
There were other avenues available for somebody whose conscience was stirred and thought that they needed to question government actions.
A hero. What words would you describe yourself with?
From a historic context, I think it's clearer and clearer that what I did was the right thing to do. And in fact, public opinion is swinging very heavily toward that side. And in fact,
whenever any whistleblower comes up, they say it causes harm, it causes harm, it causes harm. We have never seen any evidence of that.
But even there, you are beginning to see people speak in fact, I would say large majority terms, favorably rather than disfavorably. And I think that's because history has a way of exonerating the truth.
And that is why I am so confident now in 2019.
Who I am really doesn't matter at all. If I'm the worst person in the world, you can hate me and move on. What really matters here are the issues. What really matters here is the kind of government we want, the kind of internet we want, the kind of relationship between people and societies. And that's what I'm hoping the debate will move towards, and we've seen that increasing over time. If I had to describe myself, I wouldn't use words like hero, I wouldn't use patriot, and I wouldn't use traitor. I'd say I'm an American and I'm a citizen, just like everyone else.
So thank you for watching this video to the very end. Leave this video a like, subscribe, and I'm gonna catch you in my next video. Peace.